Am I the asshole for refusing to pay my half of our cancelled wedding? My ex-fiancé and I came from very different cultural backgrounds. Our families live on entirely different continents. I explicitly told him before we even got engaged that I always wanted a small, low-key wedding. I know that his culture have huge, lavish weddings and he told me that this is what he wants, so when we got engaged we had a long conversation which resulted in the compromise that we would have a big wedding in his home country but drop some of the other aspects of his culture that I wasn't so comfortable with, or did not mesh well with my own culture. Regarding living situation and raising children, for future children, we did not have any children. This was not a huge amount of customs. In fact, we just arranged to drop one and alter two so they streamlined better with my own culture. We were both as happy as possible with this outcome. We began making booking, reservations and paying deposits for our wedding. This was all out of his bank account. This is because we did not have citizenship in each other's countries, so it was far less complicated for everything to be paid from an account of the same country. The intention was that after we married it would be much easier to get citizenship, and once citizenship was approved we would merge our finances, and at this point it would not matter who had paid for the wedding, since all our money would be together. 3 weeks before we were married his mother and aunts got wind of one of the customs we had arranged to alter and lost it. Through conversations they then found out about the other two and eventually they threatened to disown him for being a bad son. They said I was cutting him off from his family and that if that was what he wanted they would make it easier for him. He begged me to change my mind but I was firm, saying this is what we decided together. I wasn't going to drop our agreement because his family don't like it, when there are plenty of aspects my own family are uncomfortable with. Relationships are about compromise and communication, and ultimately the first priority are the two people in the relationship, not their family. He told me if I wouldn't budge then the wedding was off. I told I had made my compromise. I still wanted to marry him under our original conditions when we had spent a long time negotiating and originally felt were fair. He said he had changed his mind and did not want to marry me. After a few weeks he contacted me asking me to pay him back for half the money he was unable to get back from the deposits we paid. Since it was so close to the planned date that we cancelled, it was not a small amount of money. However, since he was the one who called off the wedding and even at this point I would still marry him if he were to honor our original agreement, I don't think I am obliged to pay. I told him this and he is very unhappy, since he believes is it my fault that he cancelled for being unwilling to be flexible. Am I the asshole for refusing to pay my half of our cancelled wedding? Edit. It's come up a few times that if I were the one cancelling the wedding would I expect him to pay half the cost. I have replied to a few comments but it's coming up enough that I figure I'd add something to the post. If I had been the one cancelling without his approval, I would have expected to pay the cost alone. If it had been a mutual decision I would have expected to share the cost. In the context of our relationship, it makes sense for him to take the hit for this. There have been other, albeit less significant, cancellations of events that have been covered by the person who cancelled. For example, I was unable to make our planned engagement shoot and paid the cost for this. He was, pre-COVID, unable to attend a prepaid dinner event, for which he covered the cost. We've always had a very balanced and understanding financial relationship. Edit 2. I'll copy and paste an earlier comment regarding the traditions my ex-fiancé compromised on. The traditions were regarding my role in the home as a wife and mother, multi-generational households and methods of raising children, and the role of a child in the household. I don't feel comfortable providing more information than this as I don't wish to give any more evidence towards our nationalities. Also, as a few of you have guessed, English is not my first language. I tried to hide it but I guess I still have improvements to make. All this is to say that I apologize for any mistakes in my post or comments. Edit 3. My apologies to the mods for so many. My post was unclear and the misunderstanding seems to be directly affecting many people's judgment according to their comments, so I will clarify. We made no compromises on the actual wedding. The wedding was to be entirely traditional, as my ex-fiancé wished. This would also not have been a one-day event, but spanning several days and events. Additionally, it seems that not being explicit on what compromises we made has an effect on my judgment. When I wrote the post I didn't think this would affect my judgment and so I did not include it. However, it seems that I was wrong and therefore in the interest of a fair judgment I will explain. For context, our intention was to live in my home country, not his. I didn't realize until after, that he had not shared this plan with his family. This was why it was important to me that while we follow much of his culture, We also mix it as much as we can into my own. The one custom I would not budge on rejecting was myself being required to be a homemaker and not go to work. I have a career I have worked hard for and I am proud of. The first custom that we altered was that my ex-fiancé expected his family would come to live with us. We negotiated that while we would help them get citizenship so they could live close to us, they would not live in our home. We agreed that the only family of his we would allow to live with us in our home would be his parents, and Thisbe would be if they were unable to take care of themselves any longer, or one of them had died, to avoid loneliness for the remaining parent. The second custom that was altered was that to me it is very important that my children have a voice in the home and feel heard, that their opinions should be counted just as much as their parents'. I wanted them brought up without a specific religion, but given the opportunity to choose once they are old enough. I also requested that punishments never be physical, and are not decided by other family members. I understand many of you would like to know our nationalities, but unfortunately I have seen a lot of racism on Reddit, and do not intend to fuel the fire of unnecessary comments towards my ex-fiancé's country. This edit was made 7 hours after the original post. Not the asshole you didn't cancel the wedding, he did. He cancelled it after he decided to go against the agreement the two of you made. Since his family was in such an uproar that they threatened to disown him, tell him to get his money back from them. They can consider it the cost of getting their precious son back. Not the asshole. You dodged a bullet there. Under no circumstances pay him a thing. He called the wedding off. He pays. Not the asshole he cancelled. He should ask his awful family to help cover the costs. Not the asshole. Personally think that even if he had a change of heart about proceeding with the original wedding plans, there are enough red flags to believe this is not a good match. Not the asshole. He cancelled, his problem. Maybe his mommy can give him the money. Not the asshole. He cancelled and refused to free himself from the demands of his family. He can ask them to help him. You've managed to dodge a major bullet here. The less contact you have the better. Absolutely not the asshole. Info. May I ask, if you want, can share. What were these traditions that you two agreed to change, drop? Not the asshole. I'm so impressed. Perfect. Am I the asshole for expecting my wife to contribute a fixed percentage to the household expenses? When we started dating we were earning almost equally. We got married 6 months ago after a courtship of 5 years. We lived 6 months with my parents waiting to move to another city when offices reopened. While we were dating, we discussed how we'd manage our finances when we'd be living together. She had always said that we'd divide our expenses 50-50. Back then, it was expected that she'd earn more being an MBA. I had asked if dividing expenses proportionally to our salary would be a better idea. Not sure if we decided we'd do that, but I remember her saying that we'd save, invest all her salary and use mine only. Now, my new job pays double than what my wife makes. My family and I bought a house together. My parents paid their share and I took out a loan in my name for the balance 50% of the price of the house. My wife contributed 4.5% of my share when making the down payment. Every month, I pay 1/5 of my salary against this loan of 30 years. After the marriage, I figured I'd go discuss with my wife about splitting the expense. I was fine with doing the 50-50, proportional to the salary or her giving me a low enough fixed amount every month. She said no. She said she also makes purchases, there's no need for a system and our arrangement would be valid when we were living separately. I asked her if she'd contribute to the monthly Emmy. She said she would not since the house was not in her name. In the end, she agreed to give me the fixed amount every month and make some ad hoc small purchases. That was followed for a couple months. She went to her parents for 2 weeks. When she came back, she said she'd be paying only 50% of the fixed amount because she was not living there for half the month. 3 weeks ago, we moved into this house my family and I bought. We had to buy almost everything new and got some work minimal done in the house because we still have plans to move to that other city I keep talking about. We split all this expense in half. She's also moving to another company and now her monthly salary plus my Emmy equals my monthly salary. We had a fight and the money talk started. While settling it all in front of my parents and her parents, she points out that the arrangement is stupid and no man splits expenses like this with his wife. I said I am fine with any arrangement. 50-50, 70-30. Her father said that it's the man's job. I should never even bring up this topic. And that she would not run away with her money and it's there for our combined future. My wife said whole thing made her feel uneasy. The The settling thing at the end of the month makes her feel like some hostel roomies. My argument is that if we don't settle to a pre-defined percent, then my expense would always be higher than hers since we make most purchases on my credit card. Am I the asshole here? Too long did not read. Basically the title. Wife and I make roughly the same money. Edit. I had asked the question here after I had told my wife that I am fine with any arrangement she prefers. Not sure what she will decide. And to clarify, I don't expect her to pay towards the monthly Emmy, only for our bills and groceries, which she wants to do in an ad hoc manner, putting me at a disadvantage most of the time. Info. I'm so confused as to what the arrangement was supposed to be. Can't you just get a joint account that bills come out of, and payments for the credit card? That way she won't feel like she's settling up each month like hotel guest? Because you'll both be paying into an account from which you then pay for your lives. The house you bought with your family is not in her name, so why are you expecting her to contribute to it? I also understand her unease because it really seems that you're trying to nickel and dime everything, which has got to be frustrating. I don't agree with your wife's view that you should pay for everything because you're the man though. You both work, so you should both contribute to the bills. Another issue I see is that instead of figuring things out between the two of you, you're both bringing your parents into the argument. This is something that you two need to figure out on your own or with a professional. Bringing your families into it will just make things more complicated. Info. Why are you buying a house with your parents, instead of with her? I really don't understand her not being on title. Your wife sucks for obvious reasons. She made an arrangement and went back on it. But you also suck. The house isn't in her name and she's only there part-time. It makes sense that you should pay more for it. She is a nasshole for the sneaky way she went about it, but she's not a nasshole for being uncomfortable with your setup. Edit to change my vote. You are the asshole. After reading your post history on your main account, it looks like you have a history of illegal gambling. And you somehow accidentally placed a $10,000 bet instead of $100. I wouldn't want to give you money either. Why would your wife contribute to a house she doesn't live in and her name isn't on the loan, ownership of the house? You are the asshole if that's the case. All the details here are a bit foggy. You are the asshole. When you're married, it's all the same jar, unless you got married with a prenup. It's both of your house, both of your income, both of your savings. That's the way the law sees it as well. You're still looking at it from a dating perspective. Info. Is the biggest issue here the house? Since her name is not on the house, I can see why she doesn't want to pay that 50-50 as if she is a county owner. You are the asshole. Y'all headed for divorce if y'all can't change the way you think about your shared finances. What is up with all the scorekeeping on both sides? It's pretty obvious y'all don't trust each other. Am I the asshole for calling my sister's husband useless? My 17F sister, 34F, called me saying that her work had an emergency and she needs to get there ASAP and needed me to watch her kids because no one else can. I rushed over there just to find her husband locked in his game room playing video games. I asked her why she called me over if he was home and she said he didn't want to babysit because it was his only day off. Sister left, and I started hanging with the kids. I was changing the baby's diaper and the other kids wanted a snack. I told them to go ask their dad to make them a snack since the baby had a blowout and it was going to take me a while to clean him up. Well, their dad sent them back upstairs and told them to ask me again. After cleaning the baby up, I made the kids a snack and their dad came out to eat and told me not to let the kids interrupt him on his day off. By the way, he works part-time from home, 6 days a week. I kind of snapped at him and told him it was my day off too and that he's a useless FC King father and husband if his wife has to rely on her teenage sister rather than her own husband. He started telling me I was disrespectful and didn't understand how hard parenting is, and I told him he clearly doesn't understand how hard it is either since he considers parenting his own children, babysitting. He ended up kicking me out and apparently my sister was forced to come home because he told her she needed to figure it out since I'm her sister. I feel like I may be the asshole because my sister is mad at me, her husband is mad at me, my mom is mad at me for causing drama, but my dad thinks it's funny and agrees with me. I definitely didn't need to call him names, but I just hate this guy so much. We have argued about things in the past as well, so we already don't have a great relationship. My sister is saying I need to apologize to him and he is threatening to never let me into the kids' lives if I keep disrespecting him. Edit. Wow, I was not expecting this response at all. Thank you guys for all your comments, and to the people who messaged me dick pics or to kill myself. What? Why? Lol, y'all are crazy. For anyone who has asked, no, he does not take care of the kids normally. My sister takes them to daycare during the day and then picks them up on her way home. She is the breadwinner and the primary caretaker. Also, I got a few questions of, does she pay you? Not exactly, but she will randomly take me on expensive shopping sprees and will regularly buy things from my Amazon wishlist instead, and I have no problem with this arrangement. I really love those kids and don't have an issue babysitting them. I love hanging out with them. I also don't blame my mother for her being mad at me, just because of the fact that my sister's dumbass husband texted her and apparently told her a much different version of what happened, lol. He told her I was sitting on my phone the whole time being lazy and the kids kept begging me for a snack. Also, I did not yell at him in front of his kids. It was a private conversation. I might post an update but nothing has really happened in the past day so I don't really have much to say. No one has apologized to anyone yet. Hold up. Your sister had to leave work because her husband kicked you out, even though he was literally right there for the kids. Her husband is utterly useless and she needs a reality check. Me, personally, if I showed up just to find out the husband was there but didn't want to babysit his kids, I would have turned right back around. That's not an emergency, that's enabling. Your sister sucks too. Op. 1. She decided to burden you with unnecessary babysitting duties. 2. She didn't stand up for you when you did her family a favor. You snapped only after her partner rudely barked orders at you. You were completely right in what you said and he kicked you out. People might make the case that she's being abused, but it honestly sounds like she's just crappy. If she was at all sorry for how you were treated and wasn't trying to use her children as a bargaining chip, I might feel differently. Stick with your dad on this one. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. They'll want you back in their lives when they need free babysitting again. I wouldn't apologize, it only reinforces the belief that he did nothing wrong and is able to get away with being an absent father. Why your sister puts up with that is beyond me. Don't give her a reason to believe what she is tolerating is normal, as who know what he says at home. Not the asshole. Your sister should be mad at her husband for literally not taking care of his own kids. He was already in the house but she called you instead? Make it make sense. Not the asshole. Your dad is the only person besides you who has his head on straight. Your sister was not forced to come home from work. She made a choice to come home from work because her husband is too useless to parent his own children. I'd also advise that next time she needs an emergency babysitter, that you decline. Not the asshole. I knew everything I needed to know by the "he doesn't want to babysit" line. Not the asshole. Thankfully, you seem self-aware enough that you'll marry someone who's not a loser. What an absolute joke. Who considers looking after their own kids as babysitting? Your mom should be more mad at your sister for having children with a lazy asshole. I only read the first paragraph. Not the asshole. You can't take a day off from parenting. And #X200B. However, I did make the assumption that the kids are his. Edit. Assumption confirmed. You are not the asshole and he is a useless father. Am I the asshole for buying a new car before paying back my partner? Hey guys, not really sure where to go from her. Keeping stuff vague just in case. I am 26 and my partner is 29. I just graduated med school and am starting my first residency. My partner comes from a pretty well-off family while I come from a lower middle-class family. I had to pay my way through undergrad and med school and was barely scraping by living in an expensive city, while they have had help from his family multiple times. We are currently living in my partner's parents' second home while we are in between places, rent-free. Anyways, I did not have enough money to pay for rent the last 2 months in the apartment. My partner paid and I promised to pay him back as soon as I actually started getting paid from my residency. I have a 40-minute commute to work, and my car is truly a piece of shit. It was honestly getting unsafe to drive. So, I decided with my first paycheck to lease out a new car because my old 2000s Camry needed $1,200 on it to even get it to pass inspection. My partner has been incredibly short with me this whole process. I will pay them back, but I literally could not get to work without a car. He has been making comments about it, not helping me at all with the process, even though I have helped him multiple times in situations like this, and we have had a few spats over it as well. I know it is probably frustrating for him, but literally I can either pay him back and not be able to get to work or get new car and pay him back next paycheck. He wasn't willing to let me borrow his car either. Am I the asshole? Edit. More info. I can clarify. I just graduated med school in May. We moved out of our apartment in June. I was commuting from there, which was even longer, about an hour commute, which was the one I couldn't afford the last 2 payments on as my loans went out. I told him this, and he offered to cover the rent payments as long as I would pay him back. I agreed and said I would as soon as I get paid from my residency. When my car failed inspection, I went to him and told him this. He said I should just keep driving it until my next paycheck. I told him the mechanic said it would be unsafe. He said, "Well, that seems like a predicament." I asked him if he could help me figure it out or do some research while I am working, and he said no, it was my job to figure it out. I drove my car a few days to work and it just really was making me feel unsafe. I asked if he could drive me to work or I could borrow his car. He said he didn't want to get up early and drive 1.5 hours, fare. And he was afraid he would need his car during the day, so I can't use his. I was at a loss, so I rented a car off the app Turo with my credit card for 2-3-ish weeks while I figured it out. I looked into buying a used car, but we live in a major metro, so everything that I could even remotely afford was off the market fast. The amount of time I was renting the car was ending, so I decided to go with the leasing way. I am honestly a pretty busy person with med school, so I was wondering if there was resentment building up there. He has been pretty depressed lately, and I have my own mental health issues. I can see him feeling put out if you just suddenly showed up with a new car. This is your partner, right? I would think this would be something to share with him before you did it, seeing as you owed him money and had said, as soon as you were making money, you would pay him back. You are the asshole for not discussing this first. The decision to lease a car makes sense, but not talking about your plans was wrong. Did discuss this first, changing to not the asshole. Not the asshole. I can't believe all of the other responses I'm seeing here. Your partner is not acting like a partner. He isn't communicating with you and doesn't seem interested in a compromise. He's valuing money, that he doesn't urgently need, over your safety. When you're in a committed relationship, generosity is important. Things won't always be 50-50. If you were there to support your partner when he needed it, he should be there for you in the same way. I would be cautious about this relationship, because this isn't how a partner should act. Info. What does your family or his family's money have to do with this? So essentially, in order to ever pay back the loan, you would need to keep working and complete your medical education, yes? And in order to keep working, you would need to be able to commute via car. And in order to that, you needed to procure a vehicle. And when you asked your partner for help, they essentially told you it was your problem, not theirs, and to figure it out. So you decided to do what you needed to do in order to accomplish all of the above, and they objected to how you're doing that, even though they refused to be involved in the process. That's effed up, and I hope your partner has a lot of other redeeming qualities. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. You need a car to get to work. If you don't go to work, you can't pay him back. A thing to note for the future: don't borrow money from him. Not the asshole. You can't pay them back if you don't have a job. You required a safe car to get you to work. That takes precedent over paying your partner back. Honestly, I'm surprised he is so upset about this. I can't believe he would rather you pay him back first and then get a safe car second. I'm saying not the asshole because it sounds like your partner cared more about being paid back than your well-being and you having safe transportation. If your partner is so concerned about being paid back, they should have done something to help you, like offering a different solution such as letting you borrow the car. If this was a friend or acquaintance, it might be different, but this is your partner and the title means just that. You two are a team and should help each other in times of need. I can understand why your partner may be upset, but again, the relationship should mean more than some money, and from the sound of it you explained your situation to your partner before you actually did anything. Info. Are you trying to pay back all at once or in increments? I personally would pay back in increments, and that's what my boyfriend does. It did bother me when my boyfriend owed me money but went out and bought another gun. But you need a car. Leasing probably wasn't the best idea, but it is a good way to get a better car for a lesser price. Don't go over you mileage though. That shit gets expensive. Overall, not the asshole as long as he's not in a huge need for the money you owe him at this moment.